what he'd written for the children. Wow. We did that first vision because I don't think it had been redone by the man who wrote it for four parts SATV.
Mm-hmm.
You see, he'd written it for children.
Right.
And that was exciting. That was in Jordan Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And then things sort of took off there
and
because Howard Henners was a marvelous support to me.
That's right. So you did a lot of, speaking of premieres, you did several premieres. I mean, works that were written for you, and then also Boston premieres.
No,
Can you?
Well, Dan Pinkham,
it
was my best friend at the conservatory.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he wrote 10, at least counting the little anthems, about 10 pieces for me.
The Christmas cantata, is that?
Oh well, that was maybe that'll be the end of that. Maybe that'll be what I could conduct it in your concert.
Yeah, yeah. That would be
David
terrific.
wanted me to do one piece,
he talked about
and
that.
I thought that would be very appropriate because it was Dan, and he wrote it for us, and he said that it paid for his mortgage.
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
He was just always, it was wonderful to see him in the corridor and meet him in the hall, and he'd always have a funny joke to tell. He always, no matter how you felt, he would.
I talked to John Grimes a while back. I interviewed him, and he said that he talked a little bit the Pinkham sense of humor. So, yeah. So Aaron Copland.
Aaron, he was a great guy. Let me see. Leonard Bernstein was one of the management at the Symphony Hall, and he, like Woody, there was a network, and he was very close to Aaron. And Aaron was the dean of the Berkshire Center, you see. He was the dean for years. And I think Leonard really arranged this. He arranged, this is after I'd been at the conservatory for a while. Aaron wanted to make a record of his choral works. So Leonard Bernstein arranged that Aaron come up to Jordan Hall, work with the chorus, and do a concert of his works, which he did. And I had been introduced to his works by Woody, and there was this wonderful piece that very few people did, and I'll remember its title. It's one word. Lark.
Lark, okay.
Great baritone. Are you a baritone? Baritone solo.
Tenor.
Beautiful baritone solo. Yeah. And then we had that concert, and then we went to, right after Christmas, we went to New York to Columbia Studios, Columbia Broadcasting Company, and Aaron made the record side with Lark and In the Beginning, and then the sets of his folk songs. And Mildred Miller, I don't know if you know that name, and she sang the solo in the beginning. And of course, In the Beginning took off too for chorus.
Yeah, chorus performed in the beginning.
Oh,
so, yeah, it's wonderful. And you conducted.
Oh, I conducted it here, but Aaron conducted the record.
Wow. Okay. And
he was as nice as he could be. We got the record got one of those notices. You know, I don't think it was top, it was part of the votes of the record of the year. And he sent me the notice of being on the list or high up on the list. He said, you really should have this cookie before this record. And then the other side of it was not Mildred Miller, because she did the solo. Wonderful black soprano, and I can't think of her name.
Leontine Price?
What?
Leontine Price?
No, it wasn't Leontine Price. Not of that ilk, not opera yet. She had a lighter voice, and she sang all the songs on the other side. I have those records. I should look it up. But she was lovely too, and he was just so easy and good-natured to work with. Aaron was. I remember we were doing a concert in the Chamber Music Hall at Tanglewood, and he was in charge of the music. It was new music and had In the Beginning on it. And John Oliver was in this chorus, brought up some key people from the conservatory to boost the small group we had doing it. And they had appointed this woman solo, Maestra, and she always made the same mistake in every rehearsal, and I found out that Leinsdorf, whom I didn't really take to very much, or he didn't take to me, I don't know. Anyway, he insisted that she be in the main hall for a rehearsal of some Wagner that they were doing for one of the concerts. Not that weekend, another weekend. And I went to Walker, I can't think of his name, who was Aaron's partner, and he was right. He made everything happen in a quiet way. And I went to him almost in tears and said, I can't have her in the dress rehearsal because Leinsdorf wants her in the shed. And he made it work, I mean, because he was that kind of guy. So she came and she did it right in rehearsal, and at the concert that night, she made
the mistake.
And I had made the mistake of saying to the chorus, I never think it was John, I said, what do we do if she does this? I said, just go ahead with her, I mean, so you really take off, which was a mistake, you see. Because they were such a good chorus. If they could have easily come in on the right note, and I made a mistake. So Aaron came me backstage after, and he said, what happened? But he was sweet. Yeah.
So, so is that award for that record one of the Grand Prix that you won? You won 6 Grand Prix.
Yeah, I don't remember them all. They were mostly French pieces.
Oh, okay.
But it could have. I know it was nominated, but didn't get the final prize for the best record in this country. And because he sent me this notice and said, but he was a great man. You know, there was a man who was on the same plane as Aaron, named William Schumann. I don't know if that name means anything to you. He was head of Juilliard, he was head of Lincoln Center for a while, and he was just as well known as Aaron was. And now hardly anybody knows William Schumann. He wrote Prelude for Voices. Is that him? Oh, I can't, well, anyway, I'm trying to think of the poet. I think it was because William Schumann was more the president of this and president of that. Aaron was, he had a lot of humility. He was just that kind of strength. And he taught so many composers. And when what my chorus learned working with him, you see, was so much. And it just, was part of his life, part of what he did. And he was the dean of the school at Tanglewood for years at the Berkshire Music Center.
How about, you also work with Irving Fine, did you not?
Irving was one of my best friends.
Okay, I guess you worked with him.
You see, I was lucky in that I was born and came into the time after this war, when all these brilliant musicians were coming into flower. They were getting started. They were young, and Irving had a gang because he founded the music department at Brandeis.
Right.
And he had a group. I can't. It's so hard to remember the names. I had a list of all the new pieces he did, and I can't think of all that. There, a couple of young. Schifrin was one. Schifrin taught at the Brandeis also, and another guy who was very well known. It'll come. And Irving wrote. He was teaching at Tanglewood when I was there too. And I later became co-head of the department with Bud Patterson.
Sure.
And then Patterson couldn't make it, and I was the last couple of years before Leinsdorf axed the choral department, the head of it. And what was I talking about? I'm
just
93.
about meeting, you know, being a friend of Irving Fine and Brandeis.
And Irving was teaching at the same time there, and I was an assistant. I was not to the faculty, to Hugh Ross, who was a very notable conductor, noted conductor of New York City at that time. Worked with a lot of professional choruses in New York City, and I remembered sort of crying on Irving's shirt. Oh, he had been an assistant conductor of Harvard.
Okay.
And almost at the same time, I think it was in that year, and actually he was my tutor at Harvard.
Wow.
So
really?
we were very close.
Okay.
And I remember, Woody told me this later, because my paper was on modern choral music, my final for him, for Irving, he said, you know, these were all very short descriptions. He said to Woody, I don't know what to do about Lorna and Cooke or whatever. And G. Wallace Woodworth said, well, she's just gotten married, she's gone down to Bryn Mawr, and she's, you know, frazzled, she's teaching here and there, and said, give her a break. So he gave me a B+, but that was very, very kind of him. So Irving and I became, he and his wife and my husband and I used to go out to dinner when we were at Tanglewood. We would go out to find the good restaurants in the Berkshires.
Yep, yep. Well, I've got one last famous name to ask you about, then we can talk about some other things. But Michael Tilson Thomas, you worked with him pretty extensively. So.
Well, that is a good story. I'm so glad to tell it because it's not known by many people. I just wanted to say that I loved Irving very much. And he died when he was only 47. And he was a great loss. He wrote the Ben Jonson poems for me, the Hourglass, 6 pieces.
Oh yeah.
Among the most beautiful works for chorus of the 20th century. Really gorgeous.
How did he happen to write those for you?
I asked him. We were good friends. And he was very, very warm, very dear. I mean, these two guys who helped me so much. Again, you know, my life was full of these mentors. I mean, Leonard Bernstein and Irving Fine were 2 of my closest friends in music. And Leonard Bernstein was close to Aaron and close to Munch. I remember he took me and Munch out to dinner together in New York. We were doing something at Carnegie Hall with the Boston Symphony, and I just froze. I couldn't think of what to say, and I didn't know what to order, and I felt like such a country hick. Because Munch was a smooth guy. He was but he was wonderful in French music, just wonderful. And we did a lot of records with him too. Well, there's one story. May I tell you about?
Absolutely.
We were recording the Berlioz Requiem with the Boston Symphony, and it was one of the first records that RCA was making. When they have several mics